Commissioners, also meeting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service districts, is meeting this regular session, August 19th, 2025. Commissioner Willie?
Here.
Commissioner Schneider?
Here.
Commissioner Fye?
Present.
Vice Chair Treese?
Here.
I'll announce Chair Harrington is excused for today.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And now I would like to start our public comment period.
Thank you, Vice Chair Treese. We have two members signed up. We have Sandra Nelson and Trish Raby. Let's come forward.
Ooh. Thank you. Good morning, Vice Chair Treese and Commissioners. I'm Sandra Nelson, a resident of Washington County. A couple of weeks ago, I started to tell a true story about fear. Here's the rest of the story. First, a recap. A friend from a Middle Eastern country told me what had happened to him when his small group of Christian brothers was infiltrated by a non-believer. Suddenly, one night, militants broke into their little meeting and demanded that they all renounce their belief in Jesus and simply declare that Allah was the one true God. My friend said, I was terrified. I knew that if I did not comply with their demand, I would be imprisoned and tortured. At this point in his story, he lowered his head and covered his face with both hands and said, fear makes us not think right. Here's the rest of the story. Because of his fear and terror, he was about to speak the words demanded by the militants when he suddenly felt a hand clamp over his mouth. He turned around to see who had stopped him from speaking. He saw no one. He was imprisoned and tortured, but he considers himself blessed that it lasted for only 12 days instead of the months and years that so many suffer. Thank you. The Red Cross got involved in a prison inspection, and after the prison officials were finally able to present an unbloodied copy of the prisoner's signatures, testifying that they had not been tortured, my friend was very unexpectedly released. Let's pray. Father in heaven, when we feel afraid, help us to trust you, that you will be with us, even if we are called to suffer for the sake of love and truth. Thank you for your supernatural provision and presence, which can help us to overcome our very natural fears. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to me today. I had a testimonial basically prepared, but I will give that to you. What I'd like to do now is just take a little time to share about the beginning of my day. Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Trish Raby, and I'm with Raby Family Dentistry. I know I've come before you before regarding the project Homeless Connect. Today was a very particularly hard day. I was out picking up trash, as I do at 7:30 every morning, because they just throw everything all over the place, and everybody in that area, the other business owners, are quite frankly tired of it. I was called, and you might want to beat me out for these, okay, you guys? Just letting you know. I was just picking up trash, not even close to the vicinity. He was maybe where you were at, and a gentleman looked at me, called me a cunt, a bitch, and for some reason, a nigger lover, which I find highly offensive. This was all before 8 o'clock this morning. I called non-emergency to let him know that this guy's basically unstable. Go to the back to pick up trash where I think I'm safe. I see Stephen is there, who I know. He's been sweeping up. And there's a gentleman sitting in our parking lot, and we have young kids coming in for their shifts. Stephen goes, oh, I'll take care of that. Walks up to the guy, and the gentleman's dog almost bites him, attacks him. This is within 20 minutes of coming to work. I cannot tell you, I know that there are people that are moving out of their businesses now for 30 years. You're talking Class Cuts and, Jan's bookstores. They've been there for 30 years. They're leaving. They're done. I've been here for 70 years, collectively with my family members. And so with these other businesses. We're forcing people out, you guys. We need to do something.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Your public comment. Thank you.
Right, is there any other member of the auditorium that wish to provide public comment for up to 2 minutes to the board that didn't get a chance to? Just please raise your hand or start coming forward. Not seeing anyone. Would any member via Zoom wish to provide public comment on any county topic for up to 2 minutes? Give you just a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Vice Chair Treese.
Thank you very much, Board Clerk Moss. And at this point, I'd like to move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. We have a unanimous vote, 4-0, to accept the consent agenda. And let's move on to presentations. At this point, I'd like to call forward the Affordable Housing Bond and Supportive Housing Services group for the joint quarterly update. We have guests today, too.
Good morning, Vice Chair and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Molly Rogers, and I'm the Director of Housing Services. We're here for our regularly scheduled quarterly update on our voter-approved resources. But I'm here today joined by our two Assistant Directors, Jill Chen and Jess Larson, and a very special guest, Rachel Duke, who's the Executive Director of the Community Partners for Affordable Housing, or CEPA for short. CEPA has been a long-standing partner of ours and one of the earliest, what we call, community development corporations in the state. She will share more about the incredible work that CEPA serves our community. First of all, I'd like to start off with some wonderful news. As you may recall, we set goals for our department a year ago as part of a broader county work plan effort. I am thrilled to share with you today that we closed our fiscal year exceeding our 2 community impact goals. We sustained almost 5,000 households in housing programs, exceeding our original goal of 4,650. And we housed 833 formerly homeless households, exceeding our goal of 750 by 11%. This work represents the full of our department and our respective partners. It is inclusive of all of our funding streams from the Housing Authority and the Department of Housing Services alike. And I am proud of what we have accomplished together with our staff, our providers, and the people who work hard to achieve housing stability every day. But it is the leadership and support of this board that enables us to do this great work. Thank you. It is always good to reflect on what we accomplished last year to help us embark on what our goals will be for this next coming year. So today I am incredibly eager to roll out our department work plan for fiscal year 25-26. We have 4 areas of goals: community impact, fiscal stewardship, people and culture, and process and technology. I'm not going to go through each goal and strategy, but I'd like to just share a few highlights with you today. For community impact, we hope to house and prevent homelessness for 725 households and support 5,200 households with long-term rental assistance and permanent housing, and much more. For fiscal stewardship, our team will implement 2 measures to streamline invoicing processing, which is generally a win-win for our partners and for our staff. For people and culture, we will deploy strategies to engage and support team members with organizational clarity and leadership communications. We are also planning for an office redesign as we will take over all 3 floors of Adams Crossing, and we want to create a welcoming first floor reception area that can serve the public and make the best use of the other floors for our 100+ housing services staff to serve our mission. And for process and technology, we are working to implement the county's new enterprise resource planning software, ERP, called Workday, led by the county's central finance department by its go-live date. We've set SMART goals to help us track our accomplishments and our progress. We will report back over time. We'll have a 1-page summary of our department work plan soon, and it'll become available on our website. So thanks for letting me look ahead for a moment. I will turn things over to Assistant Director Jill Chen to discuss how we've closed out our year in our affordable housing bond measure.
Thank you, Molly. And for the record, I'm Jill Chen, she, her pronouns. I'm Assistant Director of Department of Housing Services. And I wanted to just give a quick update on the regional affordable housing bonds and also touch on how this touches also on our work plan goals, especially of community impact and fiscal stewardship of the $118 million that we were allocated. And a short summary of our production overview. The community gained 12 projects, 10 of which are already. Is that better? Okay, thank you so much, Vice Chair. So in terms of the production overview, the community gained 12 projects, 10 of which are already in operations, providing 813 homes to our low-income Washington residents throughout the county. We partnered with 7 affordable housing development organizations, plus the housing authorities. And as mentioned earlier, one of them is SEPA. We're thrilled. We also partnered with Bienestar Bridge Community Development Partners, Home First, Northwest Housing Alternatives, and Related Northwest. A little about SEPA. It is one of our key development partners where we recently celebrated the Planbeck Garden opening, as well as it's on its construction of Woodland Hearth, one of the last bond projects. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to Rachel.
Thanks. Wrong way. There we go. Hi, Rachel Duke. I'm Executive Director at Community Partners for Affordable Housing. I want to start off by saying what an incredible privilege it is to be here to speak on behalf really of other development organizations as well, who have benefited from the amazing work that your staff have done in putting together a program to implement what the voters of this region so graciously voted for to fund. And that includes both the bond, the regional bond, as well as the SHS program. So it's been an amazing experience for SEPA to be one of the implementing organizations. Quickly about SEPA, I just want to say I'd like to let people know that Community Partners for Affordable Housing does 5 things. We do housing development, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We also provide asset management. We call that, we're raising the babies. It's a lifelong commitment, just like when you have kids, but once we build that housing, we will have multiple compliance requirements for different funding sources. We will need to make sure that the housing itself lasts for a long time. And so that is our ongoing long-term commitment. As a mission-based organization, our intention is to keep that housing affordable in perpetuity. Also core to our work are resident services. We want to make sure that we are supporting our residents to be as successful as possible. Sometimes that looks like we focus on eviction prevention and housing stabilization, helping households make sure that if there's a lease compliance issue that comes up, that we are working with them to resolve that. It may also look like community building on site, because relationships between residents are important and help to keep communities strong. And we also are grateful that we have the resources and we've been able to make investments in serving seniors or older adults with programming to help them thrive in place, as well as we have a great youth program focusing on kids ages 5 through 12. We are also grateful to be one of the implementers of the SHS program, and we do that for both Washington County and Multnomah County. In Washington County, we are providing the housing and case management services, rapid rehousing, and we're a presence at Heartwood Commons, ensuring that we're providing supportive housing to the residents who live there. And then finally, we are a community housing development organization, which means we are representing the community. Our board includes community members and members that we serve. And we started 30 years ago in a community-based organization in a church in Tigard. So we really take that role of being community-based to heart. Many staff at SEPA at all levels are engaged in the larger community and different committees and policy groups and conversations, because we believe that our presence and participation is important. So that's a little bit about SEPA broadly, and is probably similar to many of the organizations that are contracted partners with the county. Although I like to think that SEPA is extra special and best, because we are. Not biased on that. Thank you. So the county has supported the housing bond projects listed here, Plambek Gardens, Woodland Hearth, and Meadowlark Place, in multiple ways. So definitely the bond funds have been a game changer. But thankfully, we also have vouchers through the Housing Authority. We have home funds that were allocated through community development. And we also, in multiple projects, have been able to use housing opportunity funds at different times when needed. And I think that just speaks to the projects themselves and what it takes to build housing. In fact, it's not uncommon to have over 10 funding sources to get something built. And when we talk about doing this work, we talk about the housing development being a little bit like a layer cake with the different layers. And certainly the bond has been really helpful, but the county has stepped up in multiple ways. Also, I would like to share that in all 3 of these buildings, we are integrating supportive housing. At Plambek Gardens, there are 66 units of supportive housing. That building should be leased up, hopefully in a week, maybe 2. So that's 116 units total. At Woodland Hearth, we have 62 apartments, and of those, I'm looking here to make sure I say it right, 22 of those apartments are going to be supportive housing. We have 3 and 4 bedroom units there, and some of those large units will be for large families who need supportive housing as well. And then Meadowlark Place is a senior housing project across from the library. Seniors are the largest growing group of people who are entering homelessness. It is a real catastrophe in our community. I'm happy to say that of the apartments there, we will have 30 of those set aside for folks exiting, seniors, older adults exiting homelessness. I think that's basically my presentation, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jess. Oh, except for Jill.
Sorry, comes back this way. Just a quick summary about the bonds. As you can see, it's spread throughout the region, and creating a total of about 958 units. And the next one. And all of our production of the 958 exceeds every single metric that we agreed with Metro in terms of total units produced, number of family size units, number of very low income units, that's below 30% area median income, and permanent supportive housing. We further note that these figures reflect only the $118 million in Metro bonds and do not reflect the subsequent funds from Metro for permanent supportive housing, such as the Forest Grove project. In terms of next steps, our upcoming, you can call it preview, for the board, we have 2 pending amendments to our intergovernmental intergovernment agency agreement. And that is, the first one is for the permanent supportive housing funds. This is one so that we could use the funds for acquisition of the site. And the second one is for an additional almost $5.5 million for existing and pipeline projects. We do note that these additional funds are not included in the 958 units being produced as part of our production target. And that is the presentation for the affordable housing bonds, and I will pass it over to Jess.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Rachel. Good morning, board. For the record, my name is Jess Larson, and I am your other assistant director over and bringing to you today an update of our supportive housing services program, the other regionally invested voter-approved measure in housing underway here in Washington County. So we finished up the 4th year of the program really strong also in our supportive housing services work. One of the highlights we wanted to start with was the release of a new supportive housing services capital project report, of which I have extra copies to share with each of you. And in this report, you'll see that we've been able to effectively deploy one-time funds from the supportive housing services revenue that was unable to be allocated in the first early years of the program as we were building out, to make critical investments, capital investments in this infrastructure of our supportive housing services system, our ongoing homeless services work. So we have 16 projects underway, which represent over $87 million of investments. Much of those investments have gone into creating a sustainable shelter system, creating and renovating or improving a system of over 400 shelter beds. We are in the midst of creating a system that will include 4 access centers for people who are still yet unsheltered and want to come in for day services and get connected to caseworkers, each in one of the corners of our county. And then, as you know well, we are in the midst of developing about over 100 units of new transitional housing with our partners in Transcending Hope and also on Cornell Road. So we had the opportunity to have a tour with some of our colleagues across other funders and community partners like the health system, HealthShare was there, OHCS, Metro, and some of our key partners to go see some of these sites and talk about this investment in an ongoing or a sustainable infrastructure system to support our ongoing services. And we hope to be able to offer a tour like this for, many times again, but especially geared towards some of our elected leaders across the region in the near term. Some other highlights before I move on to our outcomes. Also, we have created a new communications training opportunity for our roughly 25 community-based partners who work in partnership to implement the supportive housing services program, offering media training for executives and also storytelling gathering for frontline staff so they can help us gather the stories of people who are being served by the program. And then we've also made some important advancements in continuing to streamline our invoicing procedures to make it easier to do business with the county. So those were some other highlights for you from our Q4. And then here is, I'm so sorry, our progress in year 4 towards our goals. You'll see the goals on the first column and the actual year-end outcomes towards those goals on the far right column. It's important to note, and you will recall that in the spring, we had to adjust some of these, not all of these metrics, because as you know, we had to adjust our ongoing operating system because of reduced revenue. So we reduced some of those goals. But the good news is we were able to achieve or exceed each of the goals we set for our system and continuing to really strongly demonstrate success in placing people in permanent supportive housing, moving people who've been chronically homeless in our community into supportive housing. So I won't go through each of those, but I think they speak for themselves. Some other key outcomes or goals we set for the year and where we ended the year in achieving those is, as I said earlier, we are indeed funding transitional supportive housing projects with those one-time funds, so check the box there. We've continued to increase our system alignment with healthcare partners, especially working to improve the rollout of HRSN Medicaid benefits. And we've expanded our use of the by name list to support case conferencing in coordination with regional best practices, learning from our partners in Clackamas and Multnomah County, and also partnering with our health system providers to be able to use that data to connect people as well with healthcare services. We launched a new lived experience technical subcommittee to guide our parent body, the Homeless Solutions Advisory body. We continue to investigate and understand and apply new strategies to better reach Asian American communities. Our data demonstrates that we have a disparity in serving or reaching those communities compared to the data, the county-wide data on poverty in Asian American communities in Washington County. So this is a body of continuous improvement that you will continue to hear about in future years. We've made great progress in expanding training access for non-English speakers with training one peer. I must be reading this item, but ongoing support to expand services to non-English speakers, and then hosting listening sessions with our community to continuously receive feedback and identify opportunities for improvement. Next, a quick highlight on our financial update, but I want to underscore that this work is still in progress. We aren't able to close out our fourth quarter at the same time that we close out our data, the financials of our fourth quarter at the same time we close out our data, because we don't receive our final installment of revenue until I think this week. So this data does not include our last monthly check of SHS revenue, though you can see on the left there that we are on track to likely achieve what was forecasted in revenue for this year. Now that was the much reduced forecast, so you will recall that we started the year with an anticipation of $115 million, and Metro updated that forecast with new financial data. But the good news is it looks like we're tracking to achieve that revenue that was forecasted for Washington County. And on the other side, where we are looking to end our quarter or our fiscal year, and again, still closing out some of those final invoices, is that we had a board-approved authorized budget of $146 million. Now that would include the revenue to be received this year and one-time funding from unspent revenues from previous years. The spending looks to be at about $130 to $5 million. We'll see as the staff work to finish those calculations or close the books, which would put us at about 90% of the authorized budget. And much of that you can see is for those capital projects that we started the presentation with. So we'll have more of an update here. And as you may recall from our previous quarterly update, we have a new one-time framework that will guide the investments of any funds left over at the end of this fiscal year. And so as staff finish wrapping up the financials for the fiscal year, we'll be preparing a presentation for your board's consideration at a work session, probably coming in October for that continued work. And also, I might mention on this slide, speaking of financials, we have an opportunity to apply for some one-time funding from Metro, which is another item that's going to be coming forward to your board in a work session next week. And then in news of other items underway or coming up next, we are rolling out a new program this year called the Housing Resolutions Fund. It is a streamlined, pooled resource for one-time funds to help people who are homeless move into housing, or to prevent people who've experienced homelessness in the past, prevent their homelessness. So all of our providers will be able to go to this single source with a simple application to immediately provide a housing intervention. And this will be key as our system transitions more to an attrition-based capacity where we've filled up all of our rapid rehousing slots. We've filled up all of our PSH slots. So now we're only going to have capacity to serve those as people move out of those placements or those slots in our system. So we're going to need to be able to serve more people with one-time diversionary kind of tactics, as they say, in homeless services system. And this homeless resolution fund will be key in helping us to do that. We are in the midst of selecting a provider who will operate the ongoing daily needs of the Cornell Road Recovery site. That's the hotel we purchased off of Cornell Road. And that provider will provide those daily operations as well as the programmatic operations. So more news on that announcement coming soon as the procurement team finishes up that request for proposals. And then last, as we've discussed, it's a big year. We're starting year 5, and we think this is an important opportunity to look at where we're at, what we've achieved, and update our community plan. So that's our local implementation plan, and the team is already working on engaging broadly to gather feedback about what do we need to do now from years 5 to 6 through 10 to sustain the important work we've built and make further improvements. So I believe that concludes our combined presentation, and we'd welcome any questions or feedback from you all.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions, comments? Please.
Thank you all. I think you each highlighted very important components. Rachel, very good to see you. I get to see the other 3 more often. Good to see you in person. Jess, on your sort of last slides, you talked about how we've now sort of filled much of our capacity and that we're going to be transitioning to essentially trying to prevent evictions, one-time support types of interventions. That certainly worries me, given the needs in our community overall. And I would just ask that, I'm sure you and your teams will be all over this, but make sure we have good data about what is happening in that space. You know, for example, are the interventions working that we're trying? As we move more towards that one-time help by necessity, that's basically what we can afford, right? That's why we're making that move. If it's not working, I hope we can tell the story with data.
Commissioner, if I might, thank you for that feedback and an opportunity to clarify, because we want to make sure we're not describing that we're only going to be working with those kinds of interventions. I meant to say that this is a new program that will help us as we transition to this new state, but because we need to keep housing people who are homeless, and we need those PSH spots, and we need those rapid rehousing spots enabled.
Yeah, but that will be, as you pointed out, that will be attrition only, and we know the need is much greater than that, right?
Yeah. And one of the strategies will be also to help people move on from our program so that we can continue to create capacity in our system. So multiple strategies as we make this transition, one of which is that new one-time funding. Thank you.
Are there other comments or questions?
I don't have any questions. I feel like every time you all come here and present the work that you've accomplished, what I like about your presentation is you also bring a community member, heavy hitters. Last time, and now Rachel Dukes. So thank you. We appreciate the work that you all do. And it's just a moment to celebrate. But us on the dais here, we get to celebrate, but you are boots on the ground and doing the hard work and sheltering people and housing people and creating stability for people. And early on, the other arm of it, this morning in the work session, we were having a robust conversation about home ownership and what that means to community members and how does that fit into the One Washington County framework and the idea and the aspiration we're pushing forward. So it's a well-rounded morning this morning for housing and supportive housing services. Good work. I really liked reading the report, the capital projects report. I had a student that I met with a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago, and requested some documents, and I had to do a bit of a homework 2 weeks ago and came across some of these published documents on our website. Just the enormous amount of work you all put in, these reports, and the design elements that goes into, and how you frame the projects in a way that's really digestible to community members. Because even the student was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need for my project, and this is exactly what I need to be saying in my project. And so for students that are in high school or starting high school to relate to these big documents, big dollar documents, projects, I just want to commend you, your articulations, because you really do articulate it in a language that resonates with the community members, no matter where they are in their trajectory in life. So thank you. I appreciate you all, and keep up the good work, and look forward to learning more about it. And then I will say, because we did hear comment today, as we have been hearing about the Hillsborough and the Access Center, I think it may be the next project elements add some key, key bit more information about the Good Neighbor, how we're facilitating that. So that is it's comforting that there is a design element to house people, to create these shelters, to make sure that people are not using the streets as a waiting room for housing. That's why we're creating these spaces. This is by design, and people are homeless by design as well. So there's two designs that are competing here. But I think just having that little bit more information, because as the person was speaking, I went back to the materials and I thought, oh, we could have probably add this information, and just not a critique, just something to improve on next time, to just add for residents that are wanting to learn more about this project and how we're, because I don't think anybody is creating this in a vacuum. We're co-creating with the community, and I feel like that element could be highlighted a bit more better.
Thank you for that feedback, Commissioner. And I'll make sure to get staff right on an update for the board on our Good Neighbor process, project update on the process with that project. And also I just want to call out Nicole Sting's leadership and her team's work on the beautiful, I agree, beautiful capital projects report.
Mr. Willie?
No, I'd just say congratulations on being able to pivot. I know that we've been struggling all year with the reduced funding that was anticipated, and still you came through and exceeded goals. So congratulations on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will pile on here with congratulations. The numbers are exceeding. That's great. I appreciate the hard work and the dedication that the staff puts forward, and also the partnerships that you develop with our providers, and that's key to this work. I do want to underscore what Commissioner Fye brought up. Ms. Raby is still in the audience, and I encourage you to talk with her. If we can go back to page 14 on your presentation, at the very bottom, 14, one more, there we go. The host listening sessions and community survey. Is this part of the Good Neighbor agreement, or is that a separate piece of work? Because I think that we put into place a Good Neighbor agreement, and when and if it doesn't work well, what is the feedback loop, and what is the opportunity for improvements when they present themselves?
Thank you, Vice Chair, for the question. So this item here references one of our many ways in which the program is committed to ongoing community engagement work. And listening sessions and this survey here are specific to our annual programmatic work plans and planning for the ongoing implementation of the supportive services, housing services program. However, that's one of our community engagement mechanisms or approaches, if you will. The Good Neighbor Agreement and that process is it is a requirement that we put upon all of our partners with any of their capital projects, and also any program site-specific operators, that they continue to sustain that Good Neighbor Agreement and the work with community. But it is a collaborative, ongoing process, and our role as a county is to make sure that the provider is engaging effectively in that process with the neighbors.
Well,
When it's not working, though, there's got to be solutions. And I think that's a space that there's some opportunity for improvement in.
What I want to make sure that we leave on is congratulations for the hard work that you put forward. Congratulations to working toward that elusive end, but without you and without your work collectively, it would not be tenable. So I just want to say thank you so much, and I appreciate your efforts across, I know we all do, across the board. And at the same time, we look towards continuing improvement in some of the problem areas that present themselves. And I know that you're all, including Kim Marshall and others that are in the audience, willing to do that work as well. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. We're now moving on to public hearings. At this point, we will consider the annexation of one tax lot totaling 3.22 acres into Tualatin Valley Water District. And at this point, I would like to have Stephen Roberts. Is it? No, not Stephen. Thank you. You're already here. I look up and it's magic. So thank you very much. Please give us a report.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Vice Chair Treese and Commissioners. Teresa Cherniak, Community Planning Section Manager, and Tricia Garisco will give the presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, I am Tricia Garisco, Associate Planner with Land Use and Transportation. This is a brief presentation on proposed boundary change 25-005. It's a request to annex one tax lot into Tualatin Valley Water District. This subject property is located at 21627 Northwest West Union Road in unincorporated Washington County, outside the UGB. The UGB line is right in the Northwest West Union Road. The property totals approximately 3.22 acres in size, as shown here, north of Northwest West Union Road, west of Northwest Cornelius Pass, and east of Northeast Century Boulevard. The blue areas show the current extent of the TVWD boundary in the vicinity. This proposal is a request by property owners Irene Masters and Phil Van Dyke to annex one tax lot. It's 3.22 acres in size, and they're looking for annexation into TVWD in order to serve a future residence. It is in the Agriculture and Forest 5-acre minimum AF5 district, and Rural Natural Resource Plan Policy 22 allows for public water connections to AF5 designated properties. This annexation request was initiated by a consent petition from the property owner. County staff has reviewed the request and found that it meets the criteria for boundary changes as outlined in the staff report. If approved, staff recommends that the board conduct the public hearing and at the conclusion of the hearing, adopt the resolution and order approving the annexation into TVWD, with the approval becoming effective today, August 19th. If there is any public testimony today, there is a brief statement I will need to read into the record.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Clerk Moss, I'd like to open a public meeting, please.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Treese. Is there anyone in the auditorium that wishes to provide comment on this item as you've heard from staff? Not seeing anyone coming forward, raising their hand. Is there anyone via Zoom that wishes to provide comment on this staff report for this public hearing as you've heard? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Vice Chair Treese.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. I'd like to close the public hearing And at this point, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved. Vice Chair.
So we have a motion for the annexation of one tax lot totaling 3.22 acres into Tualatin Valley Water District. That's 25-005 LRP/BC.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? We have a unanimous vote, 4-0. Thank you very much. All right. We are now moving into our last public communication session. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who has signed up?
We do, Vice Chair Treese. The first two we have is Bob Terry and Jill Latre.
Welcome, Mr. Terry. We're ready when you are.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners and Chair. I hope everybody's having a good morning.
Vice Chair.
I'd like to, thank you. I'd like to talk to you this morning about the community operations and hand counting for our community. So, you know, with that, I also want to do a little editorializing on myself. You know, I have worked in the county continuously up till about 6 years ago on committees that I either established, at least 8 of them, and 4 of them I did chair for a number of years. The total time I spent with this county is 26 years working for the county continuously. This county is in my heart, and my heart is in this community. So when I come before you, it's with that in mind, and I appreciate your understanding of that. But at the federal level, the continuity of government, known as COG, ensures that the continued functioning of the federal government during any manner of disaster to the end. The continuity of operation plans, known as COOP, C-O-O-P, are developed to ensure essential functions. This includes provisions for presidential succession and replacement of elected officials. In a constitutional republic such as ours, the ability to hold elections is paramount to maintaining our way of life. Most states follow the lead of the federal government by establishing their own emergency plans. In Oregon, the Department of Emergency Management, OEM, oversees continuity of operations planning, and COOP, OEM, mandates that all states, agencies develop, implement, test, maintain, and execute continuity of operation plans for COOP. So what provision does Oregon have in place to ensure continuity of operation with respect to elections? We were able to find 2. In November 1960, Oregonians passed ballot measure 12, entitled Continuity of Government to Enemy Attack, which authorized the legislature to maintain the continuity of local and state government operations in the event of an enemy attack. ORS 254.471 extends the deadline for returning ballots in cases of an emergency. ORS 254.529 allows for hand counting in special situations such as counting of ballots in the case of an emergency. In a disaster, it isn't likely that hand counting would be required to maintain continuity of operations. Furthermore, this statute requires that the results of a hand count be compared to the results of vote tally systems. Isn't it also likely that in the case of a disaster, vote tally systems will not be operational, and they may not be for some extended time? Does Washington County have a method of hand counting that is accurate, reliable, and efficient? One that can be used in case of an emergency or in the case of a change in election law? Our observation, and this is a physical observation of this, of risk limiting audited determined that the existing hand counting system is extremely very inefficient. Oregon used hand counting for the first 240 years of its existence. The systems was transparent, involved the community, and results were reported on election day. We citizens know of such a method which is used successfully elsewhere in this country. We tested it ourselves. on the last year's King City special election unofficial recount, and it worked superbly. We would like to demonstrate it to you and to election office staff and help the county have it in place in the alternative system. Please accept our offer. I also want to add to that. When we did that, our numbers came in way much less time. We did the entire thing with 8 people. This is a physical count of our elections, of that election. We did it in less than 8 hours with 8 people. 6 hours, actually, with less than 8 people, no errors. And we had 3 that we contested. 2 of them resolved mutually, and 1 we still don't think was resolved properly. So to tell you that it can be done, it can be done. We have about 60 people. We're in the process of getting ready in the process to start training, to be trainers, to teach people how to do this system. Again, we offer it to you and to this county at free of charge. It does work. It's been proven. It's been used in other states and other countries. And there's several variations of it, but we can do it. We can prove it. So we've been after this for the whole time, and we thank you for your attention to what I'm bringing forward to you.
Thank you, Mr. Terry.
Thank you.
Ms. Latreille?
Good morning, Vice Chair Treese and Commissioners. My name is Jill Latreille, and I've been a resident of Washington County for over 30 years. Today I will read excerpts from President Trump's Truth Social account posted yesterday, August 18, 2025. I quote, "I am going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots and also, while we're at it, highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines, which cost 10 times more than accurate and sophisticated watermark paper, which is faster and leaves no doubt at the end of the evening as to who won and who lost the election. We will begin this effort, which will be strongly opposed by the Democrats, by signing an executive order to help bring honesty to the 2026 midterm elections. Remember, the states are merely an agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes. They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them for the good of our country to do. Elections can never be honest with mail-in ballots voting, and everybody, and particularly the Democrats, knows this. I and the Republican Party will fight to bring honesty and integrity back to our elections. The mail-in ballot hoax using voting machines that are a complete and total disaster must end now. Remember, without fair and honest elections and the strong and powerful borders, you don't even have a semblance of a country. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America." End of quote. As you just heard in the previous testimony, last year Washington County citizens successfully tested a hand count method used in other U.S. counties. A small team performed an unofficial recount of the entire King City special election with 100% accuracy in a matter of hours. The number of ballots we counted that day is similar to the number of ballots that a precinct would receive in an election. Yesterday, the President stated that he will be signing an executive order, and to prepare for these voting law changes, we would like to demonstrate to this county the method to you and work with the elections office staff to implement a hand counting method. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Latreille. Do we have additional?
Yes, we do. The last one we have in person is Dale Feek. Dale.
Go ahead, Mr. Feek. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Treese and Commissioners. I'm Dale Feek. Please don't read what you just got from me. Don't read it. Thank you for looking up. This is what I want to tell you or persuade you about. 3 topics: Local Emergency Planning Committee, Hazardous Materials Response a seminar and table topics. I already told you about that last time and the outcome of that. 2 is the Heather Cox Richardson about Trump and Zelensky meetings and voter integrity, part of that. And 3, misclassification of proposed battery storage. So those are my 3 topics. The 3rd topic is last, and that's what you have in front of you. So please don't look at that, okay? Thank you for looking at me. Heather Cox Richardson wrote this, and I get her daily emails. There is increasing evidence that Trump is unable to manage the presidency. Friday, Trump met with Ukraine's president, Zelensky, European Commission president, French president, Italian minister, German chancellor, NATO secretary, United Kingdom prime minister, and Finnish president. That so many foreign leaders that dropped everything to Washington, D.C. after Trump's meeting with Putin on Friday indicated their alarm. The leaders reiterated that Putin started the war and could stop at any time and pressed Trump to back a ceasefire. On Monday meetings, Trump repeated Russian talking points, complained about how he is poorly treated, and said he had ended 6 wars, insisted that voting in the U.S. is full of fraud, and suggested he would cancel the 2028 election because it's all rigged, right? And he's trying to rig it in Texas, right? He's going to cancel it, okay? Monday evening, though, CNN senior White House correspondent Christian Holmes reported that Trump paused his negotiations with European leaders to call Putin. He did that. Her source said that European leaders were not present for the conversation. And the meeting lasted, as reported, 40 minutes with Putin on the phone with Trump. And Trump canceled the meeting that was planned with those delegation and with Zelensky. That's topic 2, and I have 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Topic 3. On Thursday, August the 14th, the Washington County Local Emergency Planning Committee, I'm a member of that committee, hosted a hazardous materials response seminar and table topics exercise. That's not what I gave you yet. During the event, participants, I was not one, I was just an observer, familiarized with the concepts of the HAZMAT, that's Hazard Emergency Planning, Response Plan, the ERP. Additionally, the table talks helped to validate procedures among participants, enabled the emergency coordinators and responders to synchronize activities among all relevant stakeholders and identify potential response gaps that may exist within the county. There were over 50 people there. I was amazed at the number of sheriffs, police officers, emergency responders, health workers, clean water service staff, because the exercise had to do with REM Chemical. REM Chemical has 3 sites in Washington County. They're classified as an extremely hazardous site because they store all these chemicals that all these semiconductors and other industries in Washington County use. And REM Chem volunteered to use their site for this table topic. It was great. And I talked with both of those representatives and thanked them for willingness to put their corporation and their facility on the line. It was well done. A couple things came up. They didn't really address the specific local emergency planning response plan that's there, and I hope they'll do that later. Okay, that's topic number 2. Topic number 3. Anyway, I'm pleased with the county, and there were county employees that were there. So what you have in front of you now is an email that I sent to a senior planner, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Sinha, and I and Fawn Hosey of Save Hilbatia are submitting these comments in opposition to the proposed 10-acre battery storage system facility in AF, that's agricultural district. So the county's attempting to reclassify that, and there are reasons why not to do it. Please take a look at it. And I CC'd that to Stephen Roberts, too. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the auditorium that didn't get a chance to testify that would like to for up to 5 minutes on any county-related topic? Not seeing anyone raise their hand or coming forward. We have one more, Madam Vice Chair, online, Charlie Henderson. Mr. Henderson, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Clerk Moss. Am I coming through clearly?
You are. Please go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Well, good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Charlie Henderson. I'm a resident of Washington County, and I signed up for testimony this morning to make you all aware of an open letter from Jewish Voice for Peace calling for congressional representatives to support House Resolution 3565, the Block the Bombs Act. So it's on record. Here's what the letter states. Two representatives, Bonamici, Bentz, Dexter, Hoyle, Bynum, and Salinas, we write to you, our Oregon U.S. representative delegation, to urge each of you to co-sponsor the Block the Bombs Act, which calls on President Trump to stop supplying some of the most deadly offensive weapons to Israel. Israel is using these weapons to carry out a genocide on the people of Gaza. The use of U.S. weapons by the Israeli military in Gaza is not only unconscionable, but also violates U.S. law and international humanitarian law. In light of Israel's horrific campaign causing mass deaths, civilian casualties, starvation, and total destruction of infrastructure in Gaza, we urge you to take a moral stand and stop transferring the weapons that are enabling the Israeli assault to continue. To be silent is to be complicit in the deaths of over 60,000 people, at least 18,000 being children. UNICEF reports that 28 children in Gaza are being killed each day by Israel's military. That is equivalent to about one school classroom per day. Without U.S. weapons, the war on Gaza would end. Ending weapons is the most direct way our government can pressure Israel to agree to a permanent ceasefire. We owe this to the people of Gaza. Led by Congresswoman Delia Ramirez of Illinois, along with Representatives Sarah Jacobs of California, Pramila Jayapal of Washington, and Mark Pocan of Wisconsin, there are now 26 U.S. representatives who have signed on to H.R. 3565, the Block the Bombs Act. We call on our Oregon congressional representatives to join the courageous stand taken in late July by the majority of Democratic senators, including Senator Jeff Merkley, in supporting the recent Senate legislation, the Joint Resolutions of Disapproval. We applaud the growing number of senators who are heeding the call by the majority of Americans to restrict weapons to Israel. The Block the Bombs Act is companion legislation currently gaining signatures in the U.S. House. As your constituents, we urge you to please sign on in support of H.R. 3565. As Senator Merkley said in a social media post, more food, less bombs, that is an Oregon value. So last time that I testified to the board, I had called for support for a resolution calling for a ceasefire, to let aid in, support the release of hostages from both sides, and most importantly, to support an arms embargo against Israel. As I indicated before, I am under no illusion that such a resolution would bring this genocide to an end, but its purpose, much like this open letter from Jewish Voice for Peace Portland, is to put much needed pressure on our congressional delegation, which has been overwhelmingly weak on this travesty. Additionally, last time I spoke, the chair had indicated afterwards that there was no foreign policy within the county's portfolio. On this open letter, you're going to be able to see major local political leaders within the Oregon Senate, Oregon state reps, city councilors from Portland, Lake Oswego, Hillsborough, Beaverton, some local school board members, and some faith-based leaders. None of these individuals will have foreign policy as part of their portfolios either, but they've all recognized that what is happening to our Palestinian brothers and sisters is so heinous and so antithetical to their values that they must provide support wherever they can. So please consider signing up for this open letter, which should be in your inboxes. I know you've been in work session all day. The county consistently celebrates being the most diverse county in Oregon, and it puts on these celebrations each month to highlight various marginalized groups under the idea that this county truly values human rights and cares about the lessons that history teaches us. But if the county is unwilling, and I want to stress that, unwilling, not unable, to do something as simple as sign an open letter to stop our tax dollars from killing babies, then none of the feel-good celebrations really mean much at all. I thank this board truly for your time and any consideration you can put forth on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. We appreciate your perspective. Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else that would like to provide comment?
We do not, Madam Vice Chair.
All right, well, moving on to our board announcements. Tuesday, August 26th, we have a work session at 1:30 p.m. and a board meeting at 6:30 p.m. On Tuesday, September 2nd, we have a work session that starts at 9 a.m. We will then have the Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting that will start at 10 a.m. Following that, we will have the regular board meeting. On Thursday, September 4th, we will have a roundtable that starts at 9 a.m. Tuesday, September 9th is a work session beginning at 9 a.m. Tuesday, September 16th is a work session. There is a work session that starts at 9 a.m., board meeting at 10 a.m. And Tuesday, September 23rd is a work session that starts at 2 in the afternoon, and it gives us the opportunity to have an evening board meeting at 6:30 p.m. And thank you for not making me talk about October. I appreciate that. So with that, is there any other announcement from the commissioners? No? Is there a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Passes 4-0. We are adjourned. We will reconvene at 11:15 in the work session room.
Yes, and